Hiya, welcome to the first episode of Sketch Makes Random OCs. Today we have a theme of newspaper and personality traits of naive, unkind, and rebellious. So my first thought with this is a angsty little filly who's a journalist. So I start off with my sketch of getting a nice, real angry person, face, just staring up, being really aggressive. The type of naive that I was going for is less of, trusting of everybody and more of she thinks she's smarter than all the adults. So I have her looking up and glaring at someone, and I'm giving her a nice fluffy, rugged mane to give her like a tomboy personality. I thought her hair was kind of bland, so I tried adding a hat. I went with a beret first, but I don't think it fit her very well, so I went with a beanie. So she's kind of like a really angsty Seattle kid, which big relate. I started sketching out a cutie mark, went with a notepad, thought of a newspaper. The notepad ended up working better. You will see in the final that I don't have the pen, but the notepad is still there. So for her coat color, I pick a nice medium gray. It's not dark, it's not light, because newspapers are black and white, so I figured a black and white color palette would suit her really well. So I'm working on getting that snarl just right. Very angsty. We love an angsty girl. I try really hard to stick to the sketch because I feel like this one was really nice and deserved to be fully recognized in the final line work. So after some cleanup, I go in to start working on her eyes. I wanted to give her really short, stubby eyelashes because, again, she is more of a tomboy. I feel like that just adds to, the rebellious. You won't, subscribe to typical female fashion and aesthetic and such. She is a big old trope, but I love her. And I feel like the trope is done well, where she's got some uniqueness with her, actually being a brat and not being, just super cool. She's actually more of a bully character than a, MJ from the newer Spider-Man movies, where she's angsty, but lovably angsty. This is angsty and wow, rude. I try my best to make sure that the mane and tail match. I find that is very important so that the character looks like a whole character and not one character with another character's butt. I get started on her beanie and I decide that it should be red so that it stands out with the black and white. Black, white, and red is a very common color palette, but that's just because it works really well. The red stands out. I chose a muted red, however, so that it wasn't aggressively in your face. It wasn't until after that I realized she looks like she could be from the Rainbow Road Trip episode. I think that's okay though, because she's really cute, and I feel like it just works. I try to get a red notepad for her key mark because I want to bring that red in to unify the beanie into the design, but it wasn't really working. So I just go with a plain paper notepad with a yellow color that I will later put in as her eye color. The shape was really hard for me to get. I ended up pulling up a reference off screen to make sure it does look like a My Little Pony notepad. For the scribbles and binds, I make sure that the color is the main color so that we really limit that color palette, which gives it a closer My Little Pony feel. Here, I'm just fixing up the mane so that the hat and ear and mane all look like they are actually possible and not just assets plopped on top of a base. Right now, it might be hard to tell what I'm doing. I'm actually changing the color of the notepad slightly to make it look more close to a yellowy, older newspaper. Eventually, I find the shade of yellow that I like. I can now start coloring in the body using a color less saturated and lighter than the gray I used. I actually think the saturation stays the same because I believe the saturation of the gray is all the way up on the side of my color square. I do the same thing for the mane and hat. I change her eye position so that it looks more like she's looking up at a taller pony, such as an adult. I still give her eye shines, even though most bully characters in the show don't, because I feel like it helps retain that Philly vibe. I thought her mane was looking a little bland, so I add some lighter streaks. Something is still missing, so I decided to give her some spots. I don't really like how they look on the rest of her face, so I decided to keep it just under her eye and on the tip of her ear. And there we have it, ROC. I haven't decided a name for her yet, but I have decided that she works at her school's newspaper and is known for bullying the kids who don't listen to her in the newsroom. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and consider following my Twitter and Patreon for more art.